Meghan Markle, that sales technique in full. Film the back of her kids' ginger heads, attach schmaltzy message, add nauseating soundtrack, post on Instagram, wait one day, and then sell, baby, sell. Welcome to, as ever, her ladyship's oddball online store, where the weirdness never stops. What's new on the poorly stocked shelves now? Candles at $64 each and a new range of wine. Yours for just $89 a bottle. No thanks. Who exactly does Ms. Markle see as her target market? Billionaires? Meanwhile, Manic Meg is reported to have launched Project 4, a concerted effort to mend the Sussexes' icy relationship with Harry's furious royal family back in Britain. Why? Because, of course, she's terrified, with good cause, that William plans to strip his hated brother of his dukedom as soon as possible, which in turn will reduce her to plain old Mrs. Markle of Montecito. After the humiliating removal of preposterous Prince Andrew's titles, the current Duchess of Sussex suddenly wants to be friends with Princess of Wales Kate again. Good luck with that. But back to Meghan's tycoon dreams and Mum of the Year's promotional strategy, exploiting little Archie and Lilibet with a sickening inevitability straight after that touching video featuring the Sussexes and their two children on a happy, snappy family visit to a Halloween pumpkin patch. Meg got down to business. Potential customers duly heartwarmed by saccharine footage of the difficult Duchess, hapless Harry and their red-haired youngsters running around to the tune of the Mamas and Papas pop classic California Dreaming. The digital doors to Meghan's electronic shopping mall swung open. Roll up for mundane domestic products at astronomical prices. $14 jars of Scam Jam, $28 honey pots, and must-have dried flowers sprinkles for only $15. Interested? No, me neither. Now haul out the holly, here comes our heroine's fabulous festive rip-offs, accompanied, of course, by Meg's mangled version of English, her trademark hideously over-the-top gush talk that makes you want to say, Meghan, it's just candles, not the Gettysburg Address. But here she goes, waxing lyrical about signature candle 519, scented with Moroccan mint, cardamom, and tea leaves in an intoxicating cocktail that, and I quote, evokes the freshness of a day in the English countryside and captures cherished memories of the ease and joy of Meghan's marriage to Britain's second worst prince on May the 19th, 2018, as in the 19th of the 5th, 519. See? Now on to signature candle 084, as in August the 4th, her birthday. This obscenely expensive slice of perfumed heaven apparently comprises water lotus, sandalwood, and California poppy. This, Meg reveals, warms her family home and will, she promises, feel like a hug. What does that even mean? Answers on a postcard, please. $64 each, 50 quid or so in British money. Lots of words spring to mind. Bargain isn't one of them, but it gets worse. Don't miss the latest addition to the Duchess's line of Van Very Ordinaire. After the wannabe royals Rosé Plonk, après le Sauvignon Blanc, savour the delights of her 2021 vintage Napa Valley Brut. Crafted, apparently, from Pinot Noir and Chardonnay grapes. This bank-busting booze is a wallet-draining $89 a throw. But check this out. If you purchase 12 bottles or more, wait for it, drum roll, magnanimous Meg will let you off the $20 shipping fee. So, for a mere $1,068, you save $20. Honestly, who does this out-of-touch woman think she's kidding? Is it just me, Or is she living in her own fantasy land full of fabulously rich, gullible suckers prepared to shell out small fortunes on run-of-the-mill tat you can buy for a fraction of the cost literally anywhere else? Call me cynical or call me realistic, but at this ridiculous rate, I predict that, in the words of George Michael, this could be, as ever's, last Christmas. In other news, Harry and Meghan went to the ball game, a romantic date night at the Dodgers Stadium, to whoop and cheer as the LA Dodgers took on the Toronto Blue Jays. Who won? Who cares? But as the gruesome twosome continue their campaign against harmful social media, Meghan, Instagramming the hell out of their sporting night out, seemed a tad hypocritical. And finally, Harry granted an interview to comic Hassan Minjal, who persuaded his regal guest to have a go at changing his accent and speaking American. Unsurprisingly, he wasn't very good at it. But then again, the dim Duke's less than eloquent posh boy English isn't very good either.
That's not laughing is King Charles, who's still feeling the heat following the relinquishing of the titles of Prince Andrew. He's now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He's lost his titles, but has the problem gone away? Let's get the views of the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, live in the studio. Kinsey, this is your last hurrah in the UK before you head back to America.
It is, but I have been monitoring the way that the U.S. is covering this story, and I thought that the New York Times, their headline was interesting. It was something along the lines of, will the unraveling of Prince Andrew be the making of King Charles? The idea that we're seeing backbone, we're seeing strength and leadership from the king. I thought that that was kind of interesting. And then when it came to the Wall Street Journal, their take was that the king was cleaning things up for Prince William. You know, that the king inherited this problem from Queen Elizabeth, and was this the king's way of just making sure that this isn't an issue that Prince William has to deal with going further?
Yes. The question now is for the king. Do you feel that it's problem solved? Has he sufficiently cleaned house now so that he can actually recalibrate his reign and get on with being king?
Ask me once he's actually in Sandringham and we see what the behavior is. Is he going to quietly disappear and stay, you know, is he going to stay home? Is he going to stay out of the public eye? Are we going to be hearing stories around town about his behavior? Is he rude? Because this is not just a stripping of titles. It's really an adjusting to a completely different lifestyle. He's not going to have the staff he once had. According to Richard Kay in the Daily Mail, behind the scenes, they were still referring to him as HRH in Royal Lodge, his employees. Will that no longer take place now that he's just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor privately at Sandringham? So I think that there are a lot of questions still up in the air. And to be fair, I see and I hear the people that want a harsher response and want him to be held accountable criminally, but he has never been convicted of anything. So if that process comes to fruition, okay, but the Met Police have investigated this to some extent, and they could not find enough evidence to pursue it.
Definitely. I mean, Virginia Giuffre's family, his late sex accuser's family, are very happy that he's no longer a prince. They feel vindicated. This poor woman who's no longer with us is haunting Andrew from the grave. And what they want Andrew to do now is to do the right thing, head to America and offer evidence, any information about the activities of Epstein. Do you see that happening? We'll
talk to the author Barry Levine, who wrote The Spider, about Jeffrey Epstein, and he will tell you he really feels like Andrew has avoided the United States since this whole story exploded, because he's afraid of somebody grabbing him at the airport and forcing that meeting. You know, there being some sort of intervention with him where he might actually face some consequences in the States. He says that is why you never will see Prince Andrew step foot in the United States ever again, out of fear that something could come to fruition there. So do I think he should? I just don't think it's even worth the conversation, because I don't think he ever will. I think he's probably been advised to avoid the United States going forward. Fergie, on the other hand, I think will hop right on over to the United States to, you know, in LA, in New York, it's okay to be infamous. In fact, we celebrate it. You know, a little bit of trouble goes a long way when it comes to reality television, when it comes to the morning show hits. Fergie's always leaned into that. So I can see her trying to monetize this and trying to rebrand herself over there. The sympathetic, oh, I'm not attached to this, but guilt by association, and seeing how she can rebrand herself in the United States and maybe go the Meghan Markle route, the lifestyle route. She's tried it before with Oprah.
Well, yes, and celebrity is all that matters. That's your currency. She's a world-famous figure, Sarah Ferguson. She's infamous. And the Americans, as you say, love a redemptive story. Robert Downey Jr., Charlie Sheen, many others who have reached rock bottom and then turned their lives around. And Americans love that storybook. So the issue is that Sarah Ferguson now has got to find her own accommodation, hasn't she? So do you think she'll have to go to America just to make ends meet?
I've heard a couple of different scenarios. The first one is that she will break down and spend some time at Sandringham until she gets her life together, even though going from a 30-bedroom mall, like shopping mall of a home where you have your own wing and he has your own wing, to a 5 or 6 bedroom house is probably humbling, probably something that would take some adjusting. So I don't know how long that they would be able to stand each other in those accommodations. I've heard that the girls will have to take care of her in some capacity, but I do think that she realistically sees America as an opportunity for her to escape this and change the public
She's
perception.
not going to be as toxic a brand in the States as she is here.
I agree, yes.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, does she have money? Because what's curious is that she purchased a rather salubrious property in, I think, Mayfair, a Muse house, around 4 or 5 years ago. I think it's an investment for her daughters, but she's just sold it at a loss. Now, I'm no expert on estate agency and being a realtor, but you don't buy a property and then sell it quickly at a loss unless you've got money problems.
Well, when has Fergie not had money problems? That's really the story of her life, and that's what's gotten her into so much trouble in the past, being lured by people like Jeffrey Epstein and the fake sheikh, I think it was, that she
was offering cash for access to the royal family. But because she thinks she's a queen, she's always lived beyond her means.
Right.
It seems like, and she's a very self-destructive personality. But I mean, is she broke? Is she flat broke?
I think she likely is flat. I think she likely is flat broke. I mean, she does have over 30 books she's written. I mean, a lot of them are children's books. Her resume is incredible. Also very similar to Meghan Markle. Meghan is producing movies for Netflix now, allegedly. Meet Me at the Lake. Fergie produced that wonderful Emily Blunt Queen Victoria movie. They've both done reality shows. They've both worked with Oprah Winfrey. They've both been podcast hosts. So Fergie is willing to really do anything and everything. I don't think it's because she's necessarily ambitious. I think it's more to test the waters and see what she can get financially out of the deal. In America, we still pay top dollar for interviews. Would she be willing to write? Would she be willing to sever all ties with the royals and risk her daughter's relationships with them by writing a tell-all where she reveals some of Princess Diana's deepest, darkest secrets? Because Fergie can do that. They were best friends. They plotted to leave their husbands together to try to humiliate and bring down the monarchy in the 90s. I'm sure she knows a lot of things that have never come out yet. They used to secretly meet with astrologers, and they would dress up as police officers and sneak into nightclubs. They had a lot of fun. They got into a lot of trouble, and I'm sure we haven't heard every story that exists around that relationship, but she would be jeopardizing her relationship with the royals and potentially making the royals hesitant about their relationships with Beatrice and Eugenie the same way they were. Well, Harry's relationship with them jeopardized the cousin's relationship with Prince William. So it's going to be an interesting path to watch to see what she does next, but we've seen that she's willing to do almost anything.
Most definitely.
One who's always clear as a bell, is Rupert Bell, Talks Royal correspondent. Rupert, what do you make of the latest revelations on Andrew? This is all over the papers today. What should he do now? Tell me your perspective on this.
Well, I think he somehow needs to keep a very low profile, but I think the pressure is increasing on him. That is the problem with all the revelations that have come out around his relationship and the timeline of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein that has led to this, and the exasperation within royal circles. So for Andrew, it is a very difficult time. Can he, obviously the calls from Virginia Giuffre's brother and sister-in-law to come clean, and we've seen the support of the in the statement from the King and Queen about the fact that they spare a thought for all the people who are victims of abuse, and bearing in mind the Queen has made a passionate part of her role is helping women who suffer abuse and awful sorts of actions against them. So the Queen has had a high profile role in that, and she felt at times that this whole thing with Andrew was affecting her work in this issue. So that was one of the many reasons. There's a big sort of pressure point, all sorts of people saying that it was Sarah's decision to not stay with him anymore, the final sort of decision, but it was the pieces of the jigsaw coming together to finally make Andrew realise that he had nowhere else to go, but it would seem a cottage in Sandringham.
Speaking of having nowhere else to go, what happens to Sarah Ferguson now?
Well, they say that she will find accommodation, I suppose, just like any other
like a real person, Rupert.
Like a real person. Go and find a house to live, That, I think, is what, there she has been holed up in the Royal Lodge, the 30-room house that Andrew has had since 2003. So now, as a divorced woman, she now has to go and fend for herself and sort out her own accommodation. Her career is clearly now very much on hold because of her letters and emails to Jeffrey Epstein. So she's got her own problems to deal with. So for both of them, this is a huge fall from grace. And for the royal family, they will hope it goes away, but I'm not sure it will, because I'm pretty sure there may be further revelations to come out that could put further pressure on Andrew and put the royal family in the spotlight again for all the wrong reasons.
How surprised were you about what happened on Thursday? This seemed to take a lot of royal, not a criticism, Rupert, but it seemed to take a lot of royal commentators and experts by surprise. The fact it happened then, and the fact that it was so final.
Well, I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't surprised as well when it came through, because you have to say the loyalty of the king that he'd shown to his brother, you thought that blood might be thicker than water, but suddenly I think he began to realise, and maybe that sort of weekly discussions that he has with Keir Starmer, maybe a bit of what's going on in Parliament, preventing any sort of going to the discussing the Andrew situation in the House of Commons may have been seen as a step too far for the king, and thought, right, I've got to nip this one now and take control of it, because it has been a drip ever since the Emily Maitlis interview of problems for him. And the royal family may have been accused of just being out of step with public opinion when it came to Andrew. And just as they occasionally have been throughout the history, you think when Diana died, there was a lot, public opinion seemed to suggest that the Queen didn't handle that well, although she was doing it for all the right reasons, protecting Diana's children. And that's why she stayed there and kept a low profile. But this, I think, is a very different feel. And it's almost, you have to go back to 1917 for something like this to happen. This is really unprecedented. So I, like many, and I'm going to be, I have to admit it, I did not see this coming, and I didn't see it coming in such a brutal fashion.
Because, of course, Charles has been criticised for not being strong enough on his brother. The Queen had him as her favourite son, of course, and perhaps protected him in some way, or was instructing people to protect him. We don't know exactly what happened then. I'm sure that will all come out in the fullness of time. I wonder what you make of some of the reporting around William's views on this and the influence he may have had on his father, maybe not this week necessarily, but certainly in previous weeks and months, urging stronger action on Andrew.
Yes, because I think William probably is saying this is not a good look, and he's, going to be king one day, and he doesn't want, the sort of, with the polls and everything, sort of the royal family being seen in a negative light. wanted to basically get rid of the Andrew problem, and him being in Windsor, bearing in mind that William has just moved into his forever home, Forest Lodge, over this last couple of weeks, I believe. He just wants him away from Windsor, and all the financial sort of question marks over how the royal family do business. And that is something that William is going to have to sort out, a much more open look, and that there isn't anything that's under sort of cover of darkness, or there's some deals that we don't quite understand what was going on, peppercorn rents here and all that, which was around Andrew, although he did put $8.5 million into get securing the lease and the refurbishing Royal Lodge. So that was one of the stumbling blocks, is how they sorted out the financial severance of that lease. But for William, I'm pretty sure that he wants the Andrew problem to go away. You saw how the body language at the Duchess of Kent's funeral. He's not someone who looked like he enjoyed being around the company of his uncle.
Prince Andrew has lost his title, but has the problem gone away? Let's get the views of a good friend of mine, broadcaster, historian and fellow at the New Culture Forum, Rafe Heidel-Mancoux. Good morning, Rafe. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Good morning, Mark. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Do you think Charles was a little slow to act in dealing with his brother, Prince Andrew?
I don't think he was slow to act. Firstly, we have to understand that he acted once it became known that Prince Andrew had clearly lied with the release of emails which the palace was unaware of, which unequivocally showed that he had maintained contact with Epstein long after he claimed to have severed all connections. Up to that point, it was very much a case of Prince Andrew having been deemed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Remember, he hasn't been tried of anything. His statements were taken on face value. He was found to have lied, and so it was at that point that His Majesty acted, and I think that was entirely right.
Will it do the job? Has the problem now gone away, do you think?
I would hope with all reasonable people it will have gone away. It's hard to think what more His Majesty could do. His Majesty has literally done everything within his power to strip Prince Andrew of all of his positions, all of his titles. He's been sent to Coventry, not literally to Coventry, but Sandringham is close enough. I mean, there is, of course, the... I said a long time ago that it would be best for all involved if he were to follow the example of his great uncle, the Duke of Windsor, formerly Edward VIII, who, when he abdicated the throne, he left the country and he went to live in France. We know full well that that Andrew and Sarah Ferguson both love living in Switzerland, their property in Switzerland. He's also been given use of a palace in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. It's nice for some, isn't it? A full palace at his disposal. So he's got a choice there between a cold climate and a hot climate.
Well, I think he would do very well in the Middle East because he famously doesn't sweat.
Yes, and he's got many business associates over there as well. So
and the women are very alluring.
I just hope that the public do understand that Sandringham is not one of the Crown Estate properties, and so there is no connection to the taxpayer. That's why he's gone there from Windsor, to completely sever any possible suggestion that the public taxpayer are in any way involved with his finances. So that's a very sensible decision. I just hope the British public do understand that. Now, there's a pressure group called Republic who are agitating and have been agitating for the monarchy to be abolished. They've never gone anywhere in the polls, really, but they're talking about having a private prosecution against Andrew, even though they're not involved. And then they're crowdfunding for that at the moment. But the fact is, I'm not quite sure how they will have standing in that, and given that they're not party to it. But also, more importantly, the victim in all of this, Virginia Giuffre, she's no longer with us to testify. I think they're making mischief to advance their own agenda, which seems to me a pretty distasteful way to capitalize on someone else's suffering for your own cause. But they, of course, could potentially keep this in the headlines.
So would that suggest that most likely when it comes to any further legal action, the threat of jail or possibly some kind of civil action, that most likely Andrew is now home and hosed? Well,
you have to remember, this has been looked at by the Metropolitan Police. It would have been looked at by the DPP as well, and they didn't think that there were sufficient grounds to proceed with any legal action. Now, this is entirely separate, of course, with what's happening in America and what the American authorities might have to say on all of this. But certainly in terms of the United Kingdom, it doesn't seem as if there is much further for this to go legally.
And Rafe, what about the long-term damage to the monarchy? Do you worry that this could be the beginning of the end?
No, I think the public have been behind the King's decision on all of this. I think they've supported him with this. And you have to understand, the monarchy throughout history has always acted decisively when it's needed to preserve itself. And, you know, I think people need to understand it this way, in essence. Andrew was willing to lay down his life for Queen and country in 1982 during the Falklands War for the good of the nation and the monarchy. And he's been called upon to make a similar sacrifice now, to essentially lay down every aspect of his public life for the good of the monarchy as well in 2025.
Well, I've been asking our audience today, Rafe, whether what Charles should do now is consider his position and lay the groundwork for his abdication so that William can reinvent and reimagine the monarchy for the 21st century. Here is a voice note from a listener to the show called Elle. Take a listen to this.
Royalist all my life, and my parents were, grandparents. We all loved the Queen. She couldn't put a foot wrong. Absolutely marvellous. We all adored her. She did a fantastic job. Then Charles, he's an adulterer. He changed the law to marry his mistress. I think what he did to Diana was terrible. I think he should move over and let William take charge. I think William will do a good job. People are losing faith in the monarchy, me included. As regards to Andrew, he should have done that sooner, and he needs to strip Harry and Meghan and their children, because what they've said about, they've besmirched the monarchy terribly.
Well, Elle, I'm so glad that you left that voice note, and that's one of the themes of today's Dolan's Dispatch, and I've got thoughts about what should happen to Harry and Meghan right now. Nick in Loughborough, take a listen to this as well, Rafe.
Morning, Mark. It's Nick from Loughborough. I am a staunch royalist, but I fear the demise of the royalty is now inevitable. The Queen, God bless her, was totally apolitical, or if she was political, she never let anybody know which side she batted for. However, the King and even William are now so entangled in the green lunacy, they have themselves nailed their colours to this political green agenda, and in so doing are so out of touch with the people. If they, as politicians, will never be affected financially by the policies that they advocate, therefore they are lost to the people. They are detached from the people. Have a good weekend, Mark.
A brilliant voice note there. Rafe, what do you think about that listener earlier who said that actually Charles should step down and prepare the groundwork for the reign of King William?
No, look, that's not how we do things in this country. We have a process of succession here. Abdication is a complete anathema to our constitution. When we did it in 1936, it was something which was completely alien to our system, and it was for a person who didn't want to be king in those situations. I think we have in the person of the king an extremely accomplished monarch. This is a man who's had the longest apprenticeship in history. Look, we may or may not agree with all of the policies that the king has supported in the past. I think he's shown himself as king to understand the importance of impartiality. But I also think, whether you agree with him or not, this is a man who has undoubtedly dedicated his life to the nation. The causes, be it interfaith dialogue, homelessness, working with disadvantaged communities, re-engaging with the countryside and restoring countryside craftsmanship and so forth. We had a Renaissance man, organic farming, everything. We had a Renaissance man in the king, and I'd much rather have had somebody who was dedicated to improving the life of the British people rather than having had a playboy prince for the last 30, 40 years, happily waiting to become king whilst in the casinos of Monaco or Monte Carlo. The point is, we may or may not agree with all the policies on the environment, for example, but unfortunately to contradict the last caller, Prince William and the King are very much in line with the British public on these issues. May not be necessarily in line with all of your viewers, but the British public as a whole are very supportive of the King and the Prince of Wales on a whole slew of these issues.
And MPs apparently pushing for him to be removed from the royal line of succession. Given everything that's happened this week since that bombshell statement on Thursday, what do you think should happen now?
I think if there was any sort of chance of him succeeding to become king, then it would be an issue. But isn't it 8th or something? And so, I mean, the chances of him actually succeeding to the throne are kind of nil. So I think there's other things that Parliament should be doing.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting or important issue, certainly, and it's unlikely that the 7 people in the line of succession won't make it. I wonder, Emily, what you think about Andrew and what he could do now, because my view would be, and I wonder what yours is, my view is actually there's quite a lot that he could do. He could talk to the American authorities, he could talk to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, he could talk to the authorities in this country as well. He could give chapter and verse, and indeed emails and any correspondence in regard to Jeffrey Epstein. What do you think of that matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of that is true, and I would agree with you on that. And I would just say one other thing, which is, it is remarkable, isn't it, how the 2 people who were friends of Epstein who have had to face some consequences have been 2 Brits, have been Peter Mandelson and Andrew. And yet we've yet to see any Americans at all. And that's very odd, given that, you know, Epstein was American, and we know there are a large number of men who were involved in this. And yet the Americans have still not been able to hold anyone to account at all. And that is, I think that's worth noting.
It is worth noting that. Why do you think that is, Emily? Why do you think that is, Emily?
I don't know, but when I hear, you know, congressmen and women sort of, you know, po-facedly saying, oh, well, you know, he has an obligation to do this, that, and the other. I'm not saying that I don't agree, because I absolutely do, but it does make me think, what are you doing about the Americans? I mean, what are you doing about the Americans? You know, isn't it about time that you also, you know, followed our example, I suppose, and took this properly and seriously, and not just as a party political matter, which sometimes I wonder whether that's kind of part of it.
A party political matter? How do you think it's been weaponized in that way?
I think that Donald Trump in the first place talked about Epstein because there were leading Democrats who were seen to be friends with Epstein. And then it turns out that actually maybe he is a friend of Epstein, and then the Democrats seem to be, you know, very much in favor of fight. Do you know what I mean? I think it's all very unedifying and a long way from considering the women. And the victims.
I think they have been forgotten in all of this, and I know that protecting women and sexual violence against women is something that you have fought against your whole career. I want to talk about that more in a second. In terms of the party political aspect of this, Emily, I do wonder what you think about Peter Mandelson in this country. Should he lose his peerage?
No, I don't think so, but I do think that it was right that he was taken away from his job as ambassador, and we will be, I mean, in my committee on Monday, we are looking at what was the vetting process and is it adequate. And we've recently received a letter saying that they're going to change the processes in the future, and so we're going to be asking, well, what does that mean?
3 months to quit Lodge. Norfolk locals slam Andy. He will move in with 72 teddies. I'm, of course, talking about plain old Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. We can't bear him either, is the rather hilarious front page splash on the Sun newspaper. Humiliated Andrew Windsor, I mean, how the mighty have fallen, has 3 months to clear all of his teddy bears and get out of the Royal Lodge. Did you know he has got more teddy bears than girlfriends? Andrew. I mustn't say Prince Andrew, by the way. I've actually, Dean, I don't know whether you should connect some electrodes to my hand, and if I ever say Prince Andrew, you've got to zap me. Apparently that can be arranged, which is a bit harsh. Right, so humiliated Andrew Windsor has 3 months to clear his enormous teddy bear collection and get out of the Royal Lodge. The former prince and his collection of 72 cuddly toys must quit the 30-room Windsor mansion by the end of January, by order of his brother, the King. But residents in Sandringham in Norfolk aren't happy. That's where Andrew will be moving, of course. They said yesterday, we don't want him here either. He is a horrible man. It is hard to know where you put Andrew. Maybe, because, you know, these migrant hotels are so popular now for unwanted characters. So maybe we could, you know, what about the Bell in Epping? He could have a suite in there, couldn't he? And get down and dirty with some of the people that have entered this country illegally. Maybe an army barracks. Has the problem of Prince Andrew gone away? Let me know what you think about this. Has the King done enough to dilute and diminish this political problem that he now faces? The Times newspaper, Bob Geldof, I want to bow out of Band Aid, and Andrew quit fight after losing loyalty of ex-wife. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor finally agreed to leave his Grace and Favour residence at Royal Lodge, according to The Times, after it became clear that his closest ally, his former wife, Sarah Ferguson, had deserted him. And let's be clear about something. Sarah Ferguson is as bad as him. Sarah Ferguson is as bad as Andrew. She's greedy. She's entitled. She's incredibly thick. I'm sorry, she's not a bright woman. She's got about 2 O-levels. And all she's good at is gold digging. And she has done that at our expense for decades. And why she's an admired person and why she's still best friends with people like Kate Moss and Elton John, I'm so sorry, I can't help you on that one. The Times go on to say the former Duke and Duchess of York are to finally separate nearly 30 years after their divorce. About time. Ferguson will not join her ex-husband when he moves into exile on the King's estate in Sandringham, and will make her own plans to move on with her life. I've got to tell you, I think she's absolutely skint. I don't think she's got 2 pennies to rub together, because this is a woman who purchased a luxury Mayfair house 4 years ago and has just sold it at a loss. You don't sell a valuable asset like that at a loss, having just bought it, if you're not in financial trouble. Daily Mail, William and Kate pushed for Andrew to be ousted. Prince and Princess believed clean break was the only way forward. Is that why? See, that's leadership, isn't it? William and Catherine have gone into lockdown and said, sorry, we're not doing business with this man. He's not going to live next door when we go to the Forest Lodge. Is that an argument for making William king? Also, unrivalled royal coverage from the Daily Mail. How will Andrew cope with bleak reality of his new life in exile? That's Richard Kay. Robert Hardman, good friend of mine, great journalist. This is royal cancellation. He is reduced to a traitor. And Rebecca English, their royal editor. Why Fergie's daughters are now more upset with her. Well, because the pennies dropped, because they've realised that she's a grifter. A gold-digging grifter. Daily Express, Army is not safe for young women. The devastated mother of tragic gunner Jasly Beck claims the Army is no longer safe for young women after the soldier who sexually assaulted her daughter was jailed for just 12 weeks. It's a shocking story. This young woman served in the Army, a resourceful and talented young woman, and she's being harassed by a senior officer. And it was so egregious, this harassment, that she took her own life. And this guy, this absolute scumbag, gets 12 weeks in prison. I beg your pardon. Make it make sense. The Guardian, Andrew to receive 6-figure sum and stipend from the King. The former Duke of York is in line for a significant 6-figure sum and an annual stipend designed to prevent him overspending in his new life as commoner, according to The Guardian, as the King strives for a once-and-for-all solution to the problem of his brother. One option for a relocation settlement includes an initial payment to cover his location from the Royal Lodge to Windsor. This would come with an annuity paid for from Charles's private funds. So there you go. This guy, as I'll be mentioning in today's Dolan's Dispatch, it's not much of a punishment, is it? He'll be seeing out his years on the Sandringham estate, putting a log on the fire, having a little sip of brandy at 5 in the afternoon. How the other half live. Daily Mirror, downfall of a prince. King listened to the people. Daily Star, truck off. Need a man and a van, Andy? Do you need a man with a van? Ordinary Andy Windsor asks the Daily Star. Your Daily Star is happy to help you shift your bedload of teddies. So they've done a great stunt where they've put a van outside Windsor Castle, offering to help him with this move. Daily Telegraph, MPs push to stop Andrew's succession. Don't forget, Andrew's still 8th in line to the throne. And UK aid wasted on £52 million road to nowhere in the Amazon. And iWeekend, Andrew to get £500,000 payout for Royal Lodge, but now faces huge repair bill. Those are your front pages. To break down the big stories of the day, I'm delighted to welcome the formidable ex-Labour MP and now Reform UK supporter and broadcaster and journalist and businessman. Let me tell you, the drinks are on him, Simon Danchuk. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, good to be with you.
You do have a finger in a few pies, don't you? You are an entrepreneur as well as a writer and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Part-time author, business, etc.
You keep busy. Unlike Prince Andrew, who's going to see out his days on the Sandringham estate, it's not exactly a punishment, is it?
Not really, not by most people's standards, is it? He's still being looked after to a great extent by the wider royal family. But I do think the story's going to rumble on. You sort of intimated that in your contribution there. He's going to have to go to the US, isn't he, and explain himself.
He most definitely is. The authorities there are leaning on him. The family of Virginia Giuffre, who feel vindicated that he's no longer a prince, are pushing him to actually come to America, give evidence, and do the right thing. But ain't going to happen, is it?
Well, I think pressure will keep being applied. I don't know how he gets away. I don't know how he avoids it, to be quite honest. And people are out to make sure he's held to account, and I think that's the right thing to happen.
Now, you are a former politician, and in my estimation, and I know you won't say it, but I think highly likely to become a politician again, possibly in 3 or 3.5 years' time, Simon. But putting your political head on, has the King handled this well or badly?
I think overall he's probably handled it reasonably well, but they've had to be shunted towards taking the actions.
Slow, bit cautious.
Slow, doing what they can to help Andrew. Having said all of this, he's been pushed into this position. He would deny having done anything wrong. So he's not had his day in court, as it were. He hasn't gone before the Oversight Committee in the US, which is ultimately what he's going to be called in front of. So he's still not really fully explained his own position. But nevertheless, I think the King has broadly got it right. He's been pushed to one side.
The King got there in the end, essentially.
Got there in the end, exactly.
Do you think more should have been done, perhaps, in 2022 with that £12 million payout, the out-of-court settlement with Virginia Giuffre? Because I just wonder whether that was a moment that the public completely lost faith with the Andrew cause.
Yes, I think you're exactly right there, and I think, well, there's everything around him, isn't there? I mean, what does he stand for? What's his purpose? As you've pointed out, his divorced wife, Sarah Ferguson, hanging around like a bad smell. I mean, the Sun get it right on page 6. It says, divorced in 1996, separated 2026. I mean, it tells you all you need to know. She's, as you say, the original grifter. We talk about grifters. Sarah Ferguson is the original grifter. So everything around Prince Andrew, not Prince Andrew, Andrew Windsor, has been tainted for a considerable amount of time.
Most definitely. And can you imagine anything worse than divorcing someone and then cohabiting for 2 decades?
Well, I've been divorced twice, and I'm in my 3rd marriage, so I can't imagine what it's been like. Why you would be doing that?
Neither you or the ex Mrs. Danchuk were keen to stick around.
No,
right?
exactly.
Because that's the point of a
on.
divorce. I mean, it's odd, but it just represents a very dysfunctional setup.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bigger point, I think, for the royal family is that it's been too large. And I do think we need to shrink the royal family. And perhaps this is a slight step towards doing that.
Well, here's a question for you and for Simon Danchuk this morning. Should the King prepare the groundwork for abdication in order to give William a chance to reinvent the royal family, monarchy 2.0? Well, look, the public are not happy about this, and it's definitely a bad moment for the monarchy. The Republicans are sort of circling like sharks, aren't they? And they can smell blood.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the US Oversight Committee that is scrutinising the whole Epstein episode, and they'll want to hear from Andrew Windsor, won't they, in terms of what he knew and what he didn't know. But it also puts pressure, I have to say, on Peter Mandelson, our recent ambassador to the United States. He was exceptionally close to Epstein, to the point where Starmer had to sack him as ambassador to the United States. States, but he still sits in the House of Lords. And there are questions about whether you should have somebody like Mandelson so close to Epstein, knowing that he'd be, by that stage, Epstein had been prosecuted as a paedophile, and yet Mandelson continued a very supportive relationship with him. Should we have somebody like Mandelson in the House of Lords?
Well, I don't think we should. And the other issue that we were discussing over the break is that it was Peter Mandelson that pushed for Prince Andrew to be a business ambassador, a sort of trade envoy for the UK, when there were a lot of question marks over Andrew's integrity.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So you've got Mandelson cozying up to Epstein. We've all seen the photos of him with Epstein. You've got Prince Andrew with Epstein. We've all seen the photos. And then you've got Mandelson supporting Prince Andrew to be a trade envoy. Some would say they all pee in the same pot, and it's a very unhealthy image.
So just your reaction to the news in the last 24 hours that Andrew is no longer a prince?
Well, I think that the royal family said enough of the distractions. The headlines were getting increasingly worse, and the king, a king with cancer, travels to the Vatican and meets Pope Leo and prays with the Pope for the first time in 500 years. You want that to be front page news, and the king's knocked off the front page because of this, old scandal. And then we've got Prince William on a plane to Rio for the Earthshot Awards. This is so important to William. He wants it to be his legacy. And today, you and I are talking about Prince Andrew. So I think that they realized that they had to cut out the tumor and that they had to shut this down, and in a pretty aggressive way, because potentially there's more content out there that could be even more embarrassing. So if they can distance themselves now and get him out of sight and out of mind, then perhaps they can get a step ahead.
And one has the impression that William might have taken a more robust stance against his uncle than his father has.
Well, he's not going to have the emotional connection that King Charles has. King Charles, I also have always wondered if the Queen had a private word with King Charles and said, I want you to take care of your brother, which would be understandable. And, he truly inherited this situation from the Queen's team. I wish the Queen's team would have been more aggressive, but we understand that she was ill towards the end of her life. And she lost her husband. Then we lose Prince Philip, we lose Queen Elizabeth, then Fergie gets cancer, then the King and Catherine are sick. We have to show a little bit of empathy here and acknowledge that the King has dealt personally and physically. He's had hellish, the last few years have been absolutely hellish, between grief and health, and I think that this probably kept him up a lot over the last few weeks, but I believe ultimately he made the right decision.
Is there any sympathy whatsoever for Andrew, who has been found guilty of no crimes?
No, and I'll tell you why. I thought it was so important and powerful that the King's statement acknowledged victims of sex crimes. Because that is one of the biggest complaints we hear from critics of Prince Andrew. Just acknowledge their pain. You could say, I never touched her, but I'm sorry she had this experience with Jeffrey Epstein, and I believe her. I mean, anything like, I believe that you had a negative experience with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sorry. I don't know this woman, but I'm sorry for everything she experienced. It would have changed a lot of our opinions about him if he just acknowledged that someone was hurting. And I thought that the statement by the King almost alludes to the fact that it doesn't matter. They're siding with the victims here, and with all of the work that Queen Camilla has done over the last few years, it legitimizes that.
Most definitely. Do you think that Charles will be able to move on from this and not allow his tenure as king, his reign, to be tainted by this scandal?
Ooh, I mean, there's so much that King Charles has had to dodge over the last few years. Racism allegations, Harry and Meghan lobbing those from the United States, and now this. He's desperate to end the war in Ukraine. You are seeing him making movements. Ultimately, I think even with Pope Leo, I think ultimately he wants his reign or his legacy to be peace and unity, but he has challenges along the way, and unfortunately, they're his DNA.
Because the King has reportedly leaned on the President of the United States, Donald Trump, to look upon the cause of Ukraine more favourably.
He has, and by all accounts, Trump walked away and had a completely different view on the war in Ukraine, and has even started speaking differently about it. So
pretty remarkable. What about Harry and Meghan? Are they next?
I think so. I think you should watch this space. Continue to watch this space, because the King has shown us within the last 24 hours how easy it can be, and we did not think it could be this easy.
Yes, indeed, and not with an Act of Parliament.
Arthur Edwards has spent more than 5 decades photographing the British royal family for The Sun, capturing every milestone from births to weddings to historic state visits and moments of profound grief. I mean, some of your images are just break my heart. His images have helped shape how the world sees the monarchy. Recently, he joined King Charles III in Rome for the King's historic meeting with the Pope, a man trusted by royalty and admired by his peers. Arthur's career is a masterclass in loyalty, instinct, and storytelling through the lens. I mean, what an incredible experience. When I heard this week that you were with the King as he met Pope Leo, I said, I want to talk to Arthur about this incredible. I mean, this is the 3rd time, right, that you have been introduced to a Pope thanks to King Charles?
That's right, yeah. He's incredible. I think he knows because I'm a Catholic, and I've been, all my life I've been a Catholic. And he, first it was Pope Benedict, and then Pope Francis and Pope Leo last week, and it was very moving for me. I mean, especially when he told me that. Let me just start at the very beginning, because when Pope Francis, I never got the pull. Only one photographer could go in, and I never got it. And I was standing outside, and Prince Charles sent one of his staff out, and he said, "Put your camera down, come with me." And I walked into the Pope's office. And the King introduced me, an amazing introduction. He said, "Holy Father, this is Arthur Edwards, and he's been working with me for over 40 years, and he's a Catholic." God, I was so moved. And obviously Pope Francis was magnificent. And he gave me a medal, which I treasure. And then, I walked to my position afterwards, and I was in shock. I didn't think that was ever going to happen. And then, of course, you have one moment in your life. I've had 2 moments then. I thought that was enough. And then when I go to Rome, last Wednesday, as the King got off the plane in Rome, he said, "I hope to introduce you to the Pope tomorrow, Arthur." And I went, and he did. And once again, he said, "Holy Father, this is Arthur Edwards, and he's been working with me for many years." And Holy Father said, "How many?" I said, "For over 40 years. And the Pope smiled, and we shook hands, and I just said, "Good luck, Holy Father." I didn't know what else to say, but, and then afterwards I spoke to the Archbishop of Westminster, Cardinal Nichols. I said, "Cardinal Nichols, did I say the right thing? Good luck, Holy Father." He said, "Oh, yes." He said, "He needs a lot of good luck, and so does the King."
Both women have used the media to try to change public perception of them. When it comes to Sarah, she moved from tabloid scandal to motivational storytelling. And I actually thought Prince Harry was going to and should have gone in the motivational speaking space immediately after leaving the British royal family. I thought that's what Spare was going to be until I heard that it was titled Spare. And then I said, this is not the direction we're going in. Meghan has leaned into lifestyle and media production, trying to reshape her public image around wellness, empathy, and empowerment. Do you think that with Meghan specifically, she's moving the needle at all in the UK, or do you think that people see through it? And her brand is difficult Duchess.
The things you just highlighted there, that Meghan, the areas, some of the words you used there just immediately kind of turned me off.
Yeah.
Right?
Welcome to California.
But some of the phrases, this kind of wellness, etc., and stuff like that, all grand, but it's not exciting. I thought that when Meghan was in the UK, and I had a lot of time for Meghan when she was in the UK. Okay, I thought it was an incredible personality. I remember when James Holt on their Meghan documentary said this was about the right time. If you're writing a story about the royal family, this is about the right time to introduce someone like Meghan. And she gave the impression that she had all these incredible ideas, these strong principles, that she wanted to challenge, the status quo. that there were things that she was silenced from saying. She hasn't. And so the things that you just outlined there, the projects that she's done, the bench, the cookery show and stuff like that, if we're led to believe that she was keeping people awake or emailing people at 5 a.m. in the morning with all these ideas and she wasn't allowed to speak
Jam!
out.
Now!
Yes, I'm a little disappointed that we haven't had this voice that has been standing up for justice across the world or tackling thorny issues. Maybe these thoughts in her head didn't exist when she was here in the UK, or maybe it was just, you know, one of her excuses as to why she wanted to leave. But you're not disappointed. She hasn't actually done what we thought, what she promised that she would be doing when she was in the royal family, the things that she said she was prevented from doing. She hasn't ventured into those areas.
It's been a tough week for us.
Wait, so can I say it's been a tough week getting over discovering what Kim Kardashian has been selling, which certainly brought tears to my eyes when I discovered what it was.
Well, I'm sorry that I brought that to your attention,
Yeah.
but we have been pretty busy lately covering, and at one point he was in line, well, he still is in line to this succession. Well, let's talk about what we've been covering over the last few days, which is the chaos around Prince Andrew.
Yes, and it's actually sad for the king and the rest of the family. I think we may have touched on it, but when you look, the king goes to see the Pope, and that is quite a symbolic occasion for the king. He's a man of deep faith, and to sort of have an audience with the Pope, it was significant, yet it got drowned by everything that has surrounded Prince Andrew. Now, as you know, I've known him since I went to prep school with him, so I know what he's about. And unfortunately, he has created the problem. It's no one else's fault but him that his association and his sense of entitlement has put the royal family in a very difficult position, and I feel for them. And William must be, he's losing quite a lot of hair. He's probably losing even more trying to deal with it at the moment. And I just feel that Andrew's got to find a way of putting up and shutting up for the sake of the royal family, because we've even seen, this sort of dissatisfaction. We saw boos, the odd boo for the king the other day. It is tarnishing the royal family at the moment, and every revelation that comes out, and I think it's sad for the royal family that they're having to battle this, but when you look at it, it's the Queen protected him.
Yes.
Now the gloves are off. The rest of the family are saying, come on.
Oh, well,
but unfortunately, he doesn't do come on. He doesn't want to, he thinks he's entitled to everything.
Over the weekend, Meghan Markle shares her pumpkin patch video. No faces of the children. Doria, even from the back of the head. Initially, when I saw it, I thought, this is not a woman that fled Britain for privacy. She will not leave us alone when it comes to social media. And there was a really great video I watched about Michael Jackson, about how they said he understood absence and he understood presence. He knew when to disappear and to create a mystery around him. What is he going to do next? And then he knew when to pop up and be present. Meghan kind of lacks that ability. Do you agree?
Well, exactly right, and that's the mystique of royalty. The Queen's the late Queen's old maxim, never complain, never explain. And the whole point about the royal family is that they genuinely don't chase publicity. Meghan can't quite understand that, but they don't. They're in the papers when they do something. If the King and Camilla go to Italy to see the Pope, that'll get in the papers. But probably for the next week or so, they'll do nothing. So there are long periods of time when members of the royal family, are not seen and not heard, and that is the secret of their publicity success, if you like. They don't try at it. They don't go after 5 days. I haven't been in the papers yet for ages. Isn't about time I got on the front page. She's never been able to get that through her head, that these people are not two-bit celebrities with publicists and image makers and agents. They're members of the royal family. When they're in the papers, they're in the papers. She treats the whole thing like a kind of celebrity game, and she gets so nervous about, you know, 3 days when she hasn't been in the paper, that she blitzes us again. And the more you do it, the less magical you become as a celebrity. People go, oh, not her again, her again, her again. So she breaks the golden rule. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily advise people to follow in Michael Jackson's footsteps in any way whatsoever. But in that respect, you're right, what you said. He understood, you know, stay away from the limelight until you need to be in the limelight. Don't overdo it, otherwise people will become bored with you. And boy, oh boy, after the last 3 weeks, are people bored with Meghan. That video she made, the pumpkin video, I mean, you know, on the face of it, it's quite sweet. A family trip to the pumpkin farm and all that, and Harry making pumpkin masks. But once again, you know, this back of the kid's head stuff, it's now freaky weird, isn't it? It's like, for God's sake, either show them or don't. I don't want to see the back of these kids' heads anymore. It is strange, it's odd, it's weird, it's disconcerting.
Prince supports King. Harry backs Andy Axe is the headline. Prince Harry backs the King's decision to strip Andrew of his titles and boot him out of his royal lodge home, according to The Sun on Sunday. US-based Harry has been in contact with his father and may have been in touch in recent days. He supports Charles ending Andrew's allowance, it's understood. Harry has made a point of keeping in close contact with the King since their Clarence House summit. Let's get reaction from Talk's royal correspondent, Rupert Bell. Hello, Rupert.
Morning, Mark.
Well, it's all well and good for Harry to celebrate the axing of Andrew's titles, but he ought to be thinking, maybe I'm next.
Well, potentially, yes. I think that would require something seismic, although obviously over the last few years what Harry's done has caused huge ructions within the royal family with his revelations in Spare and the documentary and various other statements that he's made. So, but I think in terms of the sort of perception of what he's done compared to what Andrew is, some of the allegations surrounding him, it's far, far worse. And I think the King just felt that it's very nice that his son is in touch with him, which is a good sign. But what it means long term, I know not, but it's no more than probably father and son having a chat on the phone, which most families do, and saying, well done, Dad, might be the extent of what's gone on there. What, though, this whole saga is about now is the royal family doing their level best to protect their reputation, which has been tarnished by all these sort of revelations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, and there are yet more allegations surrounding some of the business dealings that he had up to 2019 involving his wife as well. So I think the drip feed of revelations, I think, will not stop. But him going to Sandringham just might keep him even further out of the public eye. But the Andrew problem, in my opinion, Mark, is not going away.
With us in the studio is Piers Pottinger, Rupert. Piers, your reaction to this latest intervention from Harry?
Well, I'm inclined to sort of use a Catherine Tate expression, how dare he? How very dare he? I mean, coming from a man who has heaped indignity upon his own family in the most public manner, actually, he needs, as all the royal family, most of the royal family have done the right thing, keep quiet. The King has made a very powerful statement, and for once focusing on the supposed victims of the Epstein saga. And I think Rupert's right, it's only going to get worse for Andrew. I mean, the question is Sandringham private enough? Is it far enough away from the public glare? The answer is no, it isn't, because he'll be pursued. I'm sure the good folk of Norfolk will be really dreading the fact that there'll be paparazzi permanently there to try and catch Andrew doing almost anything, even if it's relatively normal. He's got a life of just an utter hell. He's had a pretty miserable 15 years already, and this isn't going to get any better. It's of his own making. There's no sympathy for him, and it's all over for him, really. And the extraordinary thing is that this is such a British kind of scandal, yet it's all the majority of the scandal was American. And 3 Senate committees are supposedly investigating the US government's handling of the Epstein trial, plus the House of Representatives has an oversight of the whole Epstein affair. And these are not specific inquiries, these are just open-ended, ongoing. And yet, why is it that it's only British people who have been drawn into this scandal? We've had Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in prison. We have Lord Mandelson, who's been axed as ambassador. We have Andrew, who's been completely destroyed. We have yet Epstein's fortune was built by Americans, and even Jouffre's book, dreadful book though it is, and features entirely 3 incidents with supposedly with Prince Andrew, and yet she refers to being raped by a prime minister who she doesn't name, and all the other major figures that Epstein saw regularly, very famous people like Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, the head of Microsoft, one of the world's biggest companies. I mean, these are people who were with Epstein the whole time, yet they are all off scot-free.
It's wild.
And I do think that there's a bit of the American establishment loving the spotlight on British figures rather than American.
And they don't mind a bit of British bashing. Rupert, where do you see the Andrew story going in the weeks and months ahead?
Well, I think the way the drip feeding of emails and sort of allegations keeps coming out, how it every stage, even last week, many people may have been taken aback by in the end, the swiftness of the decision to strip Andrew of all his titles and send him off into exile. But I think we just don't know how much more is going to come out and the impact. Does Andrew at any stage feel that he needs to talk about it, admit it? He's always denied every allegation. And this is part of the problem within the sort of court of public opinion, that he doesn't actually think he's done anything wrong or has never admitted to doing anything wrong. From the moment he did that Emily Maitlis interview, he is convinced by his rightness. He doesn't believe that he's got anything to answer for, yet the Queen, he paid a lot of money and various other things have come out. So I don't see the end of it. But what more can the King do? I don't know. The only person who could really get a grip of this story is Andrew himself, and that may be meaning that he has to tell the truth, rather than sort of suggesting that Pizza Express and sweating stories are the way to get out of this particular issue. Because I think until he maybe feels the need to do that, it's only going to get worse for him.
It most definitely is. And with regards to Harry, do you think there's any chance that Harry will face some kind of day of reckoning himself in the future?
No, well, really depends what happens with Meghan. I think the answer is, how does that pan out over the next couple of years? Because she's ploughing a different furrow, her business dealings, whether you think they're good or bad, but she wants to be in the spotlight. I'm not sure Harry knows what he's trying to do at the moment. Has he got enough to do? He seems to just be traipsing around the country, following her at whether it be award ceremonies, this, that, and the other. Of course, he's got his Invictus Games, but what else is he doing? And that's his problem at the moment. I think he's feeling he may be missing some of the royal life and what security that brought. But he says he's happy, so you've got to take him on his word. Rupert, but I'm not sure he knows what he's got to do next.
Let's talk about the royals. Well, first off, Robert Jobson's got another one of his blockbuster books out, old friend of mine, now churning out bestsellers like there's no tomorrow. His latest one's called The Windsor Legacy. There's a copy of the cover if you're watching the show. In this book, I mean, there's all sorts of amazing stories, but my favourite story that I'd like to discuss with you is that the Queen, Harry and Meghan always made it clear that when they decided to call their new baby daughter Lilibet, you know, that they'd contacted the Buckingham Palace, they'd discussed this, and it was all, cleared and given the green light by the Queen and everything. Well, according to Robert Jobson's book, the truth is she knew nothing about it and actually found out about it when she was reading her morning newspapers. And she found out that the kid was called Lilibet, the little girl was called Lilibet, and was furious because that was her childhood nickname. And I remember reading before that she was very upset about it because she actually said to friends, look, you know, they think I'm the Queen, you know, and I own all these palaces and all this art, and I'm fat. But in fact, you know, I haven't got very much because most of it is tied up with state ownership. She said, so I don't have much. I don't own these palaces. I don't own all these valuable works of art. I don't have very much. She said, all I've got is my memories. She said, all I've got is, you know, my childhood nickname. And now they've taken that. They've taken that. And apparently, according to Robert Jobson's book, when she read this in the paper, now a mild-mannered woman, by the way, she stood up in a fury and chucked her newspaper down on the ground in a fit of temper. She was so angry. But what this really does is cast doubt on the Sussexes' claim that they'd cleared this name with the palace, with Her Majesty the Queen. That is a story that I think we have to question now, don't we?
Well, I started to question it when they threatened to sue the BBC, who immediately, although I know the BBC's not having the best day, but I will say that
they got this one right, didn't they? Yeah.
Right. I will say that the BBC reported at the time that they had not received the Queen's permission to name their daughter Lilibet, and this conversation had not happened prior to the announcement and birth of this child being born. Harry and Meghan swoop in, immediately threatening legal action to the BBC, and the BBC responds by saying, we're not going to change our story. We're so confident in our version of events that bring on a lawsuit. Go ahead. And you know what? Harry and Meghan never spoke about it again. This entire saga just quietly fades into the distance, along with every bridge Meghan Markle's ever burned, with Trevor Ingleson and all. Meghan just tries to pretend like it never happened. This, challenging the BBC.
That's an extraordinary story. That's an extraordinary story, Kinsey. You're quite right that the BBC, to its credit, said, look, we are totally happy with this story, that the Queen did not know that Harry and Meghan were going to name their daughter after her childhood nickname, Lilibet. She didn't know. She was actually furious when she found out. But when the BBC reported that, Harry and Meghan fired off one of their famous traditional legal letters saying, you better put that right. I mean, what on earth do they think they're doing? You know, if that clearly was not the case, you can't, you shouldn't start threatening to sue journalistic organisations for stories you know to be true. They shouldn't have done that, should they?
They should not have done it, but classic Harry and Meghan, it's their truth that matters, not the truth that matters. And I believe it's in Robert Hardman's book about the King, where he suggests that Harry likely said something to the Queen along the lines of, we'd like to name our daughter after you, period. Not, we're going to take this sacred nickname that, only the closest of the close was allowed to call you throughout your lifetime. And I also think that we have learned a lot over the last few months about the truth behind Harry and Meghan's relationship with Queen Elizabeth, thanks to Sally Bedell-Smith and Lady Elizabeth Anson and some of the other stories we've heard.
I think Robert's new book as well, I think, has cast
and that's
a lot of light on it.
Robert's new book goes, Harry sat down with Hoda Kotb and said, and shocked courtiers when he said that he had a great relationship with his grandmother, but was just concerned about wanting to keep the right people around her. I mean, the courtiers at the time were like, excuse me. I mean, I think it was probably interpreted that King Charles and Prince William might not have the best influence on the Queen at the time. But the reality is, I think Harry was talking about everybody. He was just trying to make the public think that he had the Queen's best interest at heart and he was closer to the Queen than he truly was. And we learn in this book, thanks to Robert Jobson, that the Queen was so disappointed when Harry and Meghan came out to the UK and brought Lilibet, because she was expecting to have tea with them and they don't show up. And she's had a cake made specifically for Lily's birthday. And what I haven't seen in Jabbo's lead up, I don't know if he tells this part of the story, but what I know to be true, I guess I should say allegedly, is that Meghan and Harry had brought a professional photographer. And what we actually learned later from Vogue, and what we learned later on thanks to the Netflix series, is they had Netflix cameras and microphones attached to them throughout this trip as well. But it's my understanding that they had requested to meet the Queen with this professional photographer because they wanted their children's pictures to be taken with the Queen, with this Vogue photographer. And the Queen's team said absolutely not. And remember, it's Hugo Vickers who says the Queen always wanted to have somebody in the room with her to protect her if Harry and Meghan were on the way.
It's extraordinary.
And so I'm wondering if they were so irate over the Queen's refusal to have Vogue professional photos taken of her with the children, that they stood her up for tea and left her sitting there with that cake for Lilibet. And if so, just how disgusting are these two? I mean, it's like every day they surprise me at how low they are willing to go.
Yeah.
But
what Harry tries to do, isn't it? Harry has tried to depict this incredible special relationship that he had with the late Queen Elizabeth, the late great Queen, that somehow she was his favourite and they were really close. I don't think that was the case. And I think this naming of their daughter, Lilibet, was an attempt to sort of underline the special relationship. Oh, how touched Her Majesty was that they chose to use her childhood nickname for their own child. She wasn't touched. She was furious. She was really, really angry. I mean, I think that you can imagine that, can't you? This is a woman whose her entire life is devoted to her role as the monarch of this country. Most of her possessions aren't really her possessions. The only thing that are really, really hers are her memories, her personal life. And her memory, of her happy childhood, was that she was called Lilibet, and they just nicked it, that name, and they didn't ask her. She wasn't touched by that. It didn't signify a special relationship between her and Harry. Whatever relationship there was between her and Harry, I think got significantly worse the moment she found out they'd stolen her name.
Well, there's a couple of points I'd like to make. I mean, naming your child Lilibet, that was Harry and Meghan's way of trying to cement their proximity to the British royal family, whether they lose their titles or not. That their child is named after Queen Elizabeth. This is the same as Meghan being Meghan Sussex now. You know, this is just them saying, look, we're related to the royal family. No, whether I'm
Meghan Sussex now.
Yeah, and then also I was thinking about, while you were talking about that, thinking about the fact that Queen Elizabeth is staring at a Warhol that is her face. And she doesn't even own that painting. It's her face. And, that belongs to the Crown Estate. Like, that belongs to somebody else. But she's looking at a picture of herself. It doesn't even belong to her. You're right. This was the only thing that belonged to her. And, when it comes to Harry and Meghan, they're going to continue to try. I think what frustrated the Queen was not just the theft of her name, but the fact that their actions contradicted whatever they're trying to say, that this was like some thoughtful gesture that they named their child after her. You have to imagine that she's recognizing at the same time that they're doing this, Harry's giving interviews talking about how the future king, Prince Charles, and Prince William are basically prisoners to this institution. That's what he tells Oprah Winfrey, that they're stuck. He's trying to take down the institution at the same time that he's naming his child after the Queen. Prince Philip just died. And a month before Philip died, they're sitting on a couch with Oprah Winfrey. The Queen is frustrated because she sees that their actions completely contradict what not only are they saying to Hoda Kotb and everyone else, but the idea that they've done this to be sweet. No, you've taken something from me, and you've done it with an ulterior motive.
Yeah, to cash in.
Yeah.
It augments their royal connection, therefore they can make money out of it. Robert's book, Robert Jobson's book, The Windsor Legacy, also contains, forensic detail about what was happening in the run-up to Harry and Meghan Mexiting, heading off to Canada and then America, and the rest is history. As they were planning that, Harry, who came up with this compromise, what we're going to do is we're going to go and live in the California sunshine, but I'll come back a couple of times a month, I'll do a few royal engagements,
No thanks.
Still be, and he had no doubt in his mind that the Queen would say, oh, that sounds like a very good compromise, a very good solution, yes. But of course, Her Majesty, very nice lady, but when she made up her mind, she was the monarch, and she was having none of that. And apparently Harry was absolutely stunned when she said, no, absolutely not. You are either in or you are out. You go to America, it's all over in terms of the royal family. You are no longer a working royal. Harry could barely believe that he'd been knocked back like that.
Yeah, but keep in mind, they knew things we didn't at the time. Prince William is likely sitting in that Sandringham summit saying to the Queen and Prince Charles, I have a list of bully allegations. I've lost a significant amount of my staff since she's come on board. She treats people horribly. You really want to unleash her on the world with this royal connection? She's going to be representing us and scolding people on the escalator of a Neiman Marcus. Like, I'm sure that Prince William was in his right mind saying, she can't be out in the world representing our family. But also keep in mind that they had gone so deep in their scheming while they were in Canada over the holiday break. They built a website, sussexroyal.com, where they outlined what the plans were going to be without confirming with the royal family whether or not these plans were even possible. They were only going to work with grassroots, young media companies, young media personalities. They weren't going to work with any legacy media or the Royal Rota anymore. LOL.
Yeah.
People Magazine says hello. Us Weekly says they missed a call from you. Be sure to call them back as quickly as possible. And several of these other basically promises that they've failed to execute over the last 5 years. And so why would the royal family say, yes, you have permission to do all of this, when they've seen that Harry and Meghan had absolutely no respect for the monarchy or protocol in general?
But you're right, Kinsey. That's the way they operate, isn't it? They formulate plans in their mind, plans that they probably know might be controversial, might not be accepted, but they announce them as if it's going to happen. And then they get stunned when it doesn't happen. Well, listen, I'm going to play a little bit of a video of Meghan here. This is Meghan celebrating the LA Dodgers World Series win, apparently, alongside an impressed Prince Harry, an unimpressed Prince Harry. But people are saying this is kind of weird. Have a look. So that's the LA. They went to the LA Dodgers, didn't they, last week? And they were all filmed, and they got booed because they took the front seat ahead of Magic Johnson, the part owner, who's a LA Lakers basketball legend, a Los Angeles legend. So people saying, why are they in the front row? Why isn't Magic there? But they were in the front row, $1,000 seats. They posted a load of video, and the LA Dodgers lost against the Toronto Blue Jays. So people booing them for being in the front row and then booing them because they thought they were bad luck charms, that they'd brought defeat to the LA Dodgers. But anyway, that video, weird as hell, is Meghan celebrating the LA Dodgers winning in the World Series. A bit strange, isn't it?
I mean, why does she feel? I mean, just tell us you want to be Kim Kardashian without telling us you want to be Kim Kardashian, okay? Like, Harry didn't sign up for this. Harry does not like to be on camera. You can tell in that moment. There have been some people that have said, like, well, he's a Blue Jays fan. Well, then that coward shouldn't have been wearing an LA Dodgers hat a week ago, okay? You know, he didn't sign up to be monitored 24/7 and then uploaded by his wife. And I think that this is literally his hell. Also, Meghan Markle's never claimed to be a baseball fan. I mean, she was a hockey fan when we found out she was chasing after some of those guys while married to Trevor Ingleson, allegedly. Yeah. But, you know, I just hate people that jump on bandwagons. Like, all of a sudden they care about the Super Bowl because it's in their city, or they care about the Super Bowl because the local team goes, and you're like, girl, you couldn't even tell me what a quarterback is. And I feel like this is just Meghan Markle trying to jump on board of again, another trend. Tina Brown said, when it comes to charities, Meghan Markle only cares about it if it's trendy. And I think that's just Meghan Markle in general. She is so basic.
Yeah, but so that video there of her shrieking away, so it's in black and white. What strikes me about that, if that was me, you know, I mean, not that I would be Meghan, but if I looked at myself, you know, you know, I would go, well, I'm not putting that out. You know,
this is the same. This is the same.
Why would she post something like that?
Because this is the same woman willing to twerk to a song about I'm a baby mama and I'll do what I wanna. Don't forget 2025, the year we saw Meghan Markle drop it low, and I mean it probably gave us a little idea of how she lured Prince Harry in some of those positions that we caught her in during the baby mama video dance, but. I just think she is shameless. She has no class, and she continues to prove that. She is desperate for attention. No attention is the worst attention. She'll even take the negative attention. And she has realized that she's made herself look like an absolute idiot in 2025. Podcast host versus reality TV host versus jam salesperson. What else has she executed this year? What else, you know, versus motivational speaker at the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit. I mean, what is she? I'm having a hard time defining her after 2025 because she just looks schizophrenic.
Yeah, she does. She's just a sort of whirling dervish, lashing out in all directions and no central direction at all. God knows what she's up to, but that. Underpinning it always is her new desire to be on Instagram about every 20 minutes, allegedly in order to sell stuff on As Ever, her weird online store that's now selling candles for $64 and wine, a new brut vintage wine from Napa Valley at $89 a bottle. So good luck selling that stuff. But what we do learn, you and I talked about this before, is she's launched this thing called Operation Thaw, T-H-A-W, in order to try to thaw the icy relationship between the Sussexes and William and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales. Of course, we know about this ongoing brotherly feud. William and Catherine in no mood ever to forgive that couple for all the things they've done since they've been in America. Anyway, what we learn is that Meghan, though, is trying to bury the hatchet, trying to be friends with them again. Guess why? Because she's spotted that the royal family are in the mood for removing titles from princes who are a waste of space. I'm going to cut Harry some slack here. He's not quite Britain's worst prince. He's not quite the royal family's worst prince.
Give him time.
He's the second worst prince. The way he's behaved, it's now pretty accepted that William is in such a mood that when he ascends to the throne, let's hope, by the way, nothing against William, but let's hope that's not anytime soon, but when he does become king, that he will take away the Sussexes' titles. He may even do that before. So Meghan, really worried that she may stop being able to call herself the Duchess of Sussex, and Harry, he'll have to go back to Harry Mountbatten Windsor or whatever damn second name he chooses as well.
Harry Spencer. Harry Spencer.
Harry Spencer, yes, indeed. Harry Hewitt. Oh, hush my mouth. Seriously, though, you know,
well,
this is what's going on. The Meghan and Harry.
But what a terrible idea to, you know, launch Project Thaw and put it out there, because the only reason we know about this, Kevin, is because their team had to leak it. Somebody on their side had to tell us what was going on, that Meghan had every intention of trying to reconnect with the Princess of Wales, Catherine. You know, and you know what is hitting the fan in the UK. Last week, we were together as everything was hitting the fan.
Damn right.
And there's Harry and Meghan front row at a Dodgers game. There's Meghan Markle uploading videos of her cheering on the Dodgers and doing cartwheels in a living room. You know as well as I do that if they were trying to impress the royal family, or if they were trying to worm their way in truly to the royal family, they would be laying low while all this Prince Andrew chaos is exploding, because it doesn't reflect well that they are out playing while the royal family is navigating a very serious historical issue. There's Prince Harry and Meghan Markle singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," shoving a footlong down their throats. It just doesn't, you know, you just can't compare the two. It's like if the royals are facing such a hard time, go away, disappear.
Let me just explain to the British audience that a foot long shoving it down, that's a great big long hot dog called a Dodger dog, isn't it? Yeah, they're very long. Now listen, one last point, Kinsey. The Prince of Wales, or William, is in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro.
Another point. This is along with Project Thaw. Yes, continue. This contradicts Project Thaw.
So he's in Rio de Janeiro doing a big Earthshot function, you know, continuing his very important ecological work, his climate change work. I'm going to reserve my usual judgment on that. We'll allow him. It's his passion, so he's down there doing that. So good luck to him. And what does Harry do? He takes the opportunity to try and overshadow his brother by announcing he's off on his own trip to Toronto. What's he going to be doing in Toronto?
This is for Remembrance Day, and it reeks of 2020 when Harry finds out that his family is going to no longer leave a wreath in his honor. They've said, no, you're no longer here and you're no longer a working member of the royal family, so we will not place a wreath for you on Remembrance Day. So Harry and Meghan, along with a photographer, go to a military cemetery here in the States, and they have the photographer take pictures of Harry just walking around the cemetery holding hands with Meghan Markle. I mean, the way he tries to insert himself instead of letting go and finding a new path. So when I read this story, I think I sent it to you because this contradicts the Project Thaw story, that these two are doing everything in their capacity to get back in the good graces of William and Catherine. William lands in Rio for Earthshot. And I told you last week, I felt like one of the reasons why they came down so hard on Prince Andrew when they did in like this emergency, this blitz, was because I felt like the royal family is like, we need to focus our attention back to the good we're trying to do. And that would be the Earthshot Prize this week. And for Harry to announce it today, could he not wait 24 hours to announce that he was on his way to Canada? Especially when we heard a few weeks ago that he was being so generous in sharing his calendar with the royal family to try to, so that there could be some sort of synchronicity when it came to dueling events. Obviously, this is all bogus. This is all positive spin coming from his team, and actions speak louder than words, Harry.
Donald Trump, I've been playing a clip this morning, it won't bother you, but how the BBC doctored his panorama speech, which is appalling. He was quite vocal on Air Force One yesterday on Prince Andrew and the royal family. Let's have a listen.
I feel very badly. I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That's been a tragic situation, and it's too bad. I mean, I feel badly for the family.
This, of course, is all about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who yesterday might have been going to Abu Dhabi, today might be going to Sandringham. I made the point to you yesterday. Everybody's piled on. I don't like him. I think he deserves everything coming. But there's an interview with a man who's also been told that he has links with Epstein, and it's all on Andrew.
Well, yes, and this is quite interesting because there's quite a political kerfuffle going on in the States about it. Why haven't they released some of the stuff, and feel that President Trump may be blocking some of the stuff that should be coming out in the States? So that's why, for Prince Andrew, he seems to, or Andrew as he is now, is as I say, the low-hanging fruit. It's an easy one, but it does also show President Trump's affection for the royal family, because obviously he had his second state visit recently, and he does have a huge soft spot. He's been quite open in his statements of what he thinks of the King and Prince William, who's obviously in Rio de Janeiro at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
So it is quite interesting how he has said that, but ultimately that again sort of maybe deflects away from the real question that may be stirring in the United States about the whole Epstein issue, which is causing some political controversy, as I say.
You mentioned William. He's Earthshot Prize in Brazil. He's on Copacabana Beach without his shoes on. And lo and behold, the Ginger Whinger, in the midst of all of this publicity war, confirms he's going to Canada. What's that, skiing or to find a friendly elk? Do I care?
No. Well, he's gone actually part of the Remembrance Day services, obviously, around as a sort of 2-week build-up. It is interesting. By all accounts, it was cleared by the King. And it is actually quite interesting because what else is he doing at the moment? And this feels like another sort of quasi-royal visit, going to various military organisations within Canada, also supporting the Halo Trust, which was his mother's very significant charity that she launched back in the day. And so he is doing things that actually sort of show what he used to be good at. And we know he has a big soft spot for the military, but as you're quite right, this again does play off the William and Harry sort of PR game. But it also shows, whatever you think, that we do miss him doing this kind of thing. And he was good at it. And that is the problem. And you just wonder whether there is things going on that it sort of gives an olive branch that maybe there could be long-term down the line that he could see a way back. But it's a long way down the line. But I may have just said something that it's got you going there, Jeremy. But,
I think if Andrew hadn't been given the boot, William would have done that. And I think that William, when he becomes king, which sadly might be sooner rather than later, I don't think the Ginger Winger's got a look in. However, you talk about what you're good at. Meghan Markle has discovered what she's good at. She has been massively mocked for her latest Christmas recipe. Ladies and gentlemen, I jest you not, it's bloody boiled water. Have a watch.
Okay, so for holidays, I love having a really cozy, warm beverage that everyone can enjoy. And you could do teas, but you could also do a hot toddy or a spiced cider. I like to make a big pot for everyone. It's so easy. All you do, boil some water, enough for 8 servings, 10 servings. Once it's at a boil, turn it down, take the entire contents, and let it steep in the pot. Now, what happens when you do this? When people come into your house, they go, "It smells so good. What is that?" And you go, "Oh my gosh, let me offer you a drink." And then I would just add a couple details here to just embolden the flavor a bit. Honey adds a really special note. Cinnamon stick is so nice in there as well. You smell the cinnamon, you smell that lemongrass. You could also add a spirit of choice to make it a little bit more grown up, but just on its own, it's the most soothing, especially in cold weather.
Honestly, it smells so good. Yeah. So you walk into my house the morning after, it's an Indian curry and the kid's nappy that's been changed. I honestly, really?
Really. I mean, it's so mind-numbing. I mean, what that is the lowest of the low, because What do lots of people do? I'll tell you what I go out and do is I boil a kettle. I just go and pluck some mint leaves off my bush of mint and put it in and steep it. That seems to me.
But I mean, I'm just thinking on the bigger context. She used to be the Duchess of whatever. She's married to.
Yeah.
It's this inane waste of time that she thinks that anybody gives a damn about what she does to boiling water. I don't know how she's given the chance to keep doing this, Belly. Honestly.
Well, no, because she's trying to flog her as ever brand. It was her as ever honey. It's proper as ever cinnamon.
Why doesn't she as ever just do one?
Well, I mean, it's so mind-numbingly trite that it just needs to... But unfortunately, she thinks it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not even mulled wine, as mulled wine should be steeping for hours and have a flavour. Yes, have the non-alcoholic version. But I mean, I was talking on a programme I did about the fact that someone told me she just leaves mugs out the night before in preparation for people to come round to the house. I mean, what a load of baloney that is. Anyway, you've got me going. Meghan, I'm fired up for the rest of the day because that is twaddle of the highest order. And if people are I'm sorry, but people are falling for that, giving it an extra twist with a bit of honey. Give me a sick bag.
Well, there is also a question, isn't there, about what should happen to Andrew next, and will he ever confront and try to prove his innocence, if indeed he believes he is. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Gloria Allred, who's a women's rights lawyer at Allred, Morocco and Goldberg, and she's represented victims of Jeffrey Epstein and joins me now. Gloria, good to meet you. Thank you so much for joining me. It's an interesting one now that the Democrats are calling for Andrew to make himself available to questions, to tell everything he knows about Epstein. They're not accusing him of anything, but they're saying you were clearly there and you clearly knew something. What do you think the odds are of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor actually doing it?
Well, I think the most important thing that should happen next would be for King Charles and Camilla to encourage Andrew to volunteer to speak to the United States Congress, the House Oversight Committee, which is investigating Jeffrey Epstein, and he could volunteer to come before them to answer questions. It's clear that because he resided at Jeffrey Epstein's home in New York as a guest for a certain period of time, and also apparently was on Jeffrey Epstein's jet, which some people call the Lolita Express, and also because he reportedly also resided at some of the other homes of Jeffrey Epstein at other locations, perhaps at the ranch that Jeffrey Epstein had, or at Little St. James Island, that he knows who was there. He could see whether there were young girls there. He could have asked them, what were they doing there? Why weren't they in school? Did they have jobs there? What was happening there? Who were they with? Were there men at parties where they were? Were there rich, powerful, famous men? Did he see them with any of those men, engaged in any manner with them? There are lots of questions. In other words, he could answer. He could still say, I don't know anything. I don't recollect Virginia Giuffre. I did not see a crime being committed. I didn't commit any crime. But still, of course, he was at a crime scene because there were underage girls that were being sexually abused in the Manhattan house or some other locations. He could say, I never saw it. I didn't know anything. I saw no evil. I heard no evil. I was not engaged in any evil. But whether he will do it, which is your question, I don't know. He should be encouraged by His Majesty to do it. That would be the right thing to do. That would be the moral thing to do. And then it'll be up to him as to whether he decides to do it. I don't know whether the committee would subpoena him. But certainly he could volunteer, as many people would, even if they're not a prince or a former prince, just because they would want to help find out who was at a crime scene and who might be guilty of abusing children.
They can't compel him, though, can they, it appears? Where does he stand on Virginia Giuffre? I mean, tragically, she took her own life, so he no longer has a living accuser, at least not her. Where does that legal case stand now? Could that ever be resurrected, or does he need another accuser in order for there to be an actual criminal case against him?
Well, if you're talking about a criminal case, I think there would need to be an accuser. Otherwise, if there's no victim, there's not going to be a case. Or if there's no victim who's willing to testify, there's no case. There could be a civil case, depending on in which state it's alleged that a crime occurred, and on what date and what the laws are of that particular state. For example, with Virginia Giuffre, there was an extension of the law for adult victims of child sexual abuse in New York. And I was involved also in lobbying for that extension of time so that victims could have more access to the courts. And she took advantage of it, Virginia Giuffre, because she was 17, a minor under the age of 18. So she was within the time period called statute of limitations to be able to sue, and she did. That case was settled, as you pointed out, or your guest did, that the Queen contributed to that settlement, although she was not required to do so. It may be that he settled it at that point because he didn't want to have to give his deposition. That would have been in the discovery stage. He didn't want to have to testify under oath, so he settled it before he would be required to testify under oath. And it may be that he won't want to testify under oath before the House Oversight Committee either, where he could be asked questions. He would have a duty to tell the truth, and maybe he just doesn't want to have to answer those questions. But we won't know unless he's asked. Although he could volunteer, that'd be really good for his reputation if he would volunteer to testify.
Yeah, they're saying he could testify on Zoom, basically. He could testify from here with a lawyer present if he so wished. He wouldn't even have to make the journey. Can I just ask you, while I've got you here, talking about the victims, the many victims of Epstein and the cabal of disgusting paedophiles that he surrounded himself with, the Epstein files have yet to be released. Do you think they ever will be? I mean, my concern is that they're in the hands of Kash Patel at the FBI at the moment. Are we ever going to see the truth? Are the victims ever going to get the justice that they deserve?
Well, that's the key question. And of course, I've represented 27 victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And there is a battle. It's a political battle now in the United States Congress. There appear to be enough votes if the newly elected Democratic congressperson from Arizona is sworn in.
Yeah.
Because she said she will cast the vote for the discharge petition, in other words, for the files to be released. Of course, the United States Department of Justice doesn't need a vote in Congress to release the files. They could do it voluntarily. That's been pointed out many times by federal judges. But since they have to be forced to do it because they won't do it voluntarily, then they need the vote. So I think it may happen. By the way, I never call Jeffrey, I mean, it's up to you and everyone else. A lot of people call Jeffrey Epstein a pedophile. I don't. Because a pedophile is someone who is attracted to children. That's not a crime. It is a crime to molest children, sexually abuse children. So I just call Jeffrey Epstein a child molester, a child sex trafficker, because I think that focuses on the harm to the child, which I think is most important.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
But in this film...
But unfortunately, we're going to have to boycott it.
Well, no, because in this film, Meghan, let's be fair, she's bravely agreed to play the villain herself. But she is going to play herself in this film. And we're hearing, she's been inundated with offers for movies over the 8 years since she retired from showbiz, but this is the one she's chosen. Well, if she's been inundated with offers, I'm not trying to denigrate this production, but it's hardly A-list, is it? I mean, this is hardly an all-star...
It's nepotism on parade. Lily Collins, Phil Collins' daughter, Jack Quaid, Dennis Quaid's son, Meghan Markle, Prince Harry's wife. This is nepotism on full display. But I will say that if Meghan had any other offers, Kevin, you and I would know about it.
Yeah,
this
you're right. Yeah,
swamped with other offers, and this is the one she chose. I mean, if you and I are hearing about Prince Harry showing up late to Netflix meetings and then having the audacity to ask an executive for a hot chocolate, then we would hear about any and all movie offers Meghan Markle was navigating over the last 8 years. But this just is proof of what I've been saying over the last few months. Meghan continues down Fergie's post-royal path. Fergie, who played herself in an episode of Friends. This is Meghan Markle continuing down the Kardashian path. Meghan Markle playing herself is what Kim Kardashian did when she first got her foot into the scripted entertainment world. She played herself. Tyler Perry, who's on the screen right now, gave Kim Kardashian one of her first real acting gigs. So, yeah, I mean, I would expect nothing less. Meghan is continuing to follow Kim Kardashian in Fergie's footsteps.
Yeah, so basically neither you nor I are buying this idea that after being inundated with offers since she was retired from acting 8 years ago, this is the film she chose. My suspicion is this is the first film she's been offered. And it's interesting that she's supposed to play herself. But it does, as you indicate, Kinsey, reveal that or underline what we've already been seeing for some time now, a couple of months now. She is thrashing out in all directions like a whirling dervish, trying to find out, trying to hit on what to do next. So, you know, we have, as ever, you know, the, what is it you call it, the loose fruit scam jam, trying to sell mundane products at incredibly expensive prices. That didn't seem to be working that well. Suddenly she turns up in Paris Fashion Week and starts giving interviews about, yeah, I've always been seen as someone who's involved in fashion, and maybe that's my way forward. And then suddenly she's doing this. There's no direction. I think she's desperately looking for what to do next and can't quite work it out. And so she's just gone for this rather sort of low-key sounding movie.
Well, I think you've made a pretty good point throughout. I mean, I don't know how long you've been saying it, probably years now. Influencers who succeed have to be likable. Meghan remains deeply polarizing. So when I look at this, I see a clear attempt to take control of her pop culture presence. She wants to shape public perception. And if people like her, they're more likely to buy her products. The only way this role works is if she is self-deprecating and silly. If she digs her heels into the Duchess title or to the Duchess persona, I think it's a fail, and that it will anger audiences and they will reject it. But if she leans into the laugh and she pokes fun at herself, then it's a way for her to change public perception. But, you know, just to go back to your point that you've been making for a long time, I think the ultimate goal here is to get people to like her, and they don't right now. And this might be a tool that they use to try to change people's minds.
Good point. But I think the real story here is it's mildly interesting that she's going to go back to what she calls acting. A lot of people would say she's been acting the role of a royal wife now for 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is. And not particularly well, I might add. But it's mildly interesting that she's going to make this film, but I think the real story here is the timing of the announcement. Prince William is in Brazil on his Earthshot Prize mission, doing a lot of environmental work. He's just hooked up with our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. There's the COP30 summit conference coming up. So Prince William, for the past few days, has been soaking up the headlines, you know, playing beach volleyball. What was the headline? Beached whales, of course, and up by Sugarloaf Mountain, you know, getting lots and lots of TV coverage, lots of newspaper coverage. And
it's all about how sexy he is again. Like, all of the headlines are like, I had a crush on Prince William when I was a teenage girl. All of a sudden, he's hot again. You know, those are really good and surprising headlines coming out of Rio.
Exactly right. And guess what? As Prince William,
as ever,
bathes, basks in the media limelight, along comes an announcement from Meghan. I'm going back into the movies. So she's seen what's going on in South America and tried to get the initiative back, tried to hog a few headlines herself. Happens every single time, doesn't it?
It does. You know, I think Meghan, who promised a life of service when she stepped down from the royal family, I think it was honorable for her to announce that, you know, she spent yesterday loitering around a craft service table in Pasadena, California. But there's two things going on here. Yes, to the Prince William, but also it's convenient that this news drops the same day that Page Six releases an exclusive story.
That's in the New York Post, diary column in the New York Post.
Hollywood has soured on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And Hollywood sources told Page Six that there is not only no appetite left for the Sussexes in LA, but they've also worn through any goodwill they had. Another source says people are sick of them. Their act has gotten stale. They said the couple has no finesse when it comes to business. I love the line, they're just hopeless in professional settings. And they talk about Harry showing up late for this Netflix meeting and having the freaking audacity to ask this executive, not an assistant, an executive of Netflix, for a cup of hot chocolate, even though he's running late to this meeting with this high-profile Hollywood powerhouse. He goes, can you get me a hot chocolate? Of course there's no hot chocolate in the building because these people are grown-ups, so they have to go find it.
This is in Page Six today, is it?
Yesterday.
That he asked the Netflix executive to get him a cup of hot chocolate.
And this drops at the crack of dawn. So I feel like that this is Meghan trying to shut down this Page Six report that mirrors the Vanity Fair American Hustle article, because remember, they talked about how Harry always asked for hot chocolate around Spotify, to the point where Spotify pitches him a show where he judges hot chocolates with friends, and his team actually went away and contemplated it for a little bit. And, you know, so this Page Six article comes out saying Harry's running late for meetings. He's asking for hot chocolate. He's embarrassing Meghan. They also say that Meghan's convinced she's the smartest person in the room and she's to everyone. Another source says that Meghan is the one in the couple who controls everything. #duh, we know that. So I was wondering when I saw the Meghan Hollywood story, Meghan's big comeback, if it was her desperate way to shut down the Page Six story before that took off. Because immediately I asked myself, if Harry loves hot chocolate so much, why is as ever not making a hot chocolate for him? I thought you loved H. Isn't H your favorite person in the world? I asked my girlfriend this and she said, because she's embarrassed of him. That humiliates her. Because if she makes a hot chocolate and has to acknowledge it's because her 40-year-old husband loves hot chocolate, then all of these other stories are going to come out and circulate about how there's a 40-year-old man in the Netflix lobby asking if there's hot chocolate available.
Oh God, I wish I was around when he asked me to get him a hot chocolate.
I'll tell you where to shove your hot chocolate. Merry Christmas.
Hey Ginger, you know where you can shove your hot chocolate, don't you? Get it yourself. Get it yourself. I'm not your servant. And that executive should have said the same thing. It just proves he's so thick, he's so dumb, you know, that he can't quite perceive that, you know, everybody isn't his servant. Everybody isn't there to attend to his every need. Extraordinary
Well,
story.
and how many professional meetings have you been to? I mean, you and I are in them pretty regularly. You walk into the meeting, hopefully on time. If you have any respect for the person whatsoever, I know some of your producers are cringing because I've been late a few times, but you walk into the meeting on time, and the executive assistant might say to you, "Can I get you a coffee, tea, or water?" A coffee, tea, or water. That's what's normally on hand. The fact that this man thinks that hot chocolate, I mean, how many times has he watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? You need to find some reality.
He's a man-child, isn't he? He's a man-child. He's
lives
a man-child.
in a totally different world.
Exactly right. Well, listen, but also, before it was announced, or Meghan announced that she's coming back into this movie, in a blatant bid to overshadow Prince William, you know, her nemesis, her brother-in-law down in Brazil, Harry was at the same game. So I thought that was going to be the big story, was that as William got to Brazil, Harry suddenly announced, "Oh, I'm going to Canada to meet some of my fellow military veterans, and we're going to mark Remembrance Sunday together." There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing to do. But it was the timing of the announcement. And everybody went, look, he's trying to overshadow his brother again. And typical Harry, they put out a statement saying, "Oh no, you don't understand. You don't understand it. It's because you know, we have such a truncated moment of opportunity to make these announcements."
Because he doesn't get the same security as a working royal.
Yeah,
Why
no,
would
no,
he?
no,
He's not a
he didn't.
working royal.
No, Kinsey, we've got to get this right. He said because he doesn't get the same security as other working royals, as if he's a working royal. The reason, Harry, old ginger nuts, listen to this, the reason you don't get the same security is because you're not a working royal. There he is trying to classify himself as a working royal and trying to come up with an excuse for why he announced his trip to Canada at the same time his brother's getting all the headlines down in Brazil. The real reason I think he announced it then was to try and get a few column inches away from his brother, his hated brother. Same old story for Meghan, same old story for Harry. They cannot stand it every single time they see either Catherine, Princess of Wales, or William, Prince of Wales, in the newspapers, on the TV. Every time they've got to try and overshadow them, haven't they?
They do. I mean, and then, I mean, none of their actions match their words. You know, even for Prince Harry to write this open letter to about why he loves Britain, and he suggests that you should knock on a veteran's door and ask to have tea with them and ask them to tell you stories. Harry, when a veteran showed up at your door in Montecito and wanted to bring you the documentaries and the books he'd written about Montecito, you had your security send him away. He was so upset that he talked about it.
Is that right?
And then you never reached back out to that veteran and said, "Hey, I'm so sorry we dismissed you, but bring back your books on Montecito and your documentaries on Montecito. We'd love to see them." I believe it was an 80-year-old veteran that knocked on their door who had created books and videos about the history of Montecito, and he was excited that they'd moved to the neighborhood and wanted to share that with them. So it's like, practice what you preach, Harry.
Yeah, so this essay that he's written for Remembrance Sunday, 647 words, it's called "The Bond, the Banter, the Bravery, What It Means to Be British." And I'm thinking, well, you know, why are you writing this? You ran away from Britain. You don't live in Britain. If you love it so much, what are you doing in California? I mean, I suppose I can talk, but I know what I was doing in Los Angeles when I was there. I was doing my job. Journalists tend to get posted around the world. That's where I was posted.
And you weren't accusing the country you just left of racism on Netflix, on international television.
Yeah, and all of us and everybody in the country being of being slave drivers. So yes, he's gone to California, he's poured a bucket all over us. It's not just the royal family, he called them racists. He's called the rest of us Brits a bunch of slave drivers. He never ceases going on about what's wrong with this country, and yet suddenly he's, oh yeah, the country I love, the country I serve. Well, it's fine words. But it just seems like it's just words. He's not really living what he's writing there, is he?
I know I just said this about Meghan Markle, but I think so much of this is them trying to clean up their public image and change public perception. It kills. Oh, actually, there is an article in Page 6 this week about how Harry really is so livid over Meghan Markle's social media activity and how he feels like her using him. He feels paraded around by Meghan, and it's Fergie-esque, the way Meghan uses her title and his presence and the back of the kids' heads, Fergie-esque, and he doesn't like it. But one thing they say is that Harry is used to being, or was used to being, loved, and he really resents
not being loved.
He really resents sitting at a Dodgers game and being
booed. Yes,
when his face
last week,
shows
wasn't it?
up
Yeah.
On the big screen. And so I think that we are seeing a lot of them trying to change public perception. They're trying to damage control, trying to clean up their image. And that's what I thought of when because where was this letter 5 years ago? Where was this letter 4 years ago? Where was this letter 3 years ago? It feels like they're sitting around going, how can we save ourselves?
Yeah. Get back the popularity they once had before they Mexited and ran away from Britain to a new life in the California sun, and they're never going to get it back. They've lost it. They've blown it because of their behaviour. Now, Kinsey, it's Christmas coming up. It's the holidays, as they say in Los Angeles, and I know what you've been looking forward to, and me too, because Meghan's posted a film, a video. I can't be bothered to show it, to be honest with you. It's so pathetic. It's this sort of hands excitedly opening this Christmas present, and you open it and then open it, and it's 3 jars of Scam Jam, as ever Scam Jam. Imagine if I gave you that for Christmas, you go, is that it? But she's still trying to flog us mundane.
Modern day coal.
Yeah, but she's still, exactly. She's still trying to flog us mundane domestic products at astronomical prices. She hasn't quite given up on that lost cause as ever.
Well, and then her friend Oprah Winfrey, Oprah Winfrey putting it on her list. It just tells you how much Oprah Winfrey is no longer relevant or influential too for Oprah to pick that for her must-have Christmas list. It's like, what? Oprah claims that these are the types of things she would gift people. You're Oprah. Like, who are you mad at? Who hurt you? Who hurt you if you're bringing this to their house? Yeah. No, I mean, this is all she's got. I do think Meghan would make a lot more money doing these types of cameos in movies than she's ever going to make selling jam and $64 candles.
I forgot about them. And also the 87 buck bottles of wine as well. And if you buy 12 of them at $1,000 and over $1,000, she'll let you off the $20 shipping fee. She expects.
What a hangover!
Yeah.
Like what an expensive hangover. No, thank you.
Who's going to, spend that much money on her plonk?
No, I could not tell you. So, where I thought you were actually going to go with this is we're in the month of November. Yeah. When is Meghan Markle's Christmas special going to come out, and why is it so secretive when they release it? Why are you being so secretive? They should be teasing it. We should be seeing Instagram teases. We should be seeing trailers. Yeah. Special guests should be secretly promoting it on their Instagram. Guess where I'm showing up, standing in front of a Christmas tree, maybe with Meghan's jam under the tree. I don't know. But the fact that they're so secretive about this either tells me they don't believe in this product, or Meghan is such a control freak that she would allow this to fail, because she is just so fixated on keeping secrets from the media. I don't see the value in surprise, my show's out today. I see the value in the gradual buildup, the countdown. If you're a Meghan Markle fan, you're on Twitter every day saying 10 days till the Christmas special. The fact that she just wants to surprise people with the Christmas special tells me ultimately she is a control freak that doesn't know what she's doing, that is just so vengeful and bitter towards the media, or they don't believe in the product. And I think it could be either or.
It's a fascinating situation, and you said if you're a Meghan Markle fan, I'd like to ask a similar question. If you're a Meghan Markle fan, you people are, why?